Welcome back, fellow adventurers of the Frog God Games YouTube channel. My name is Ben Barsh. I'm your host, guide, and dungeon master here at the Frog God Games YouTube channel, bringing you up to date with everything going on with Frog God. And today's video is the next installment of Swords Wizardry 101 with yours truly, Professor Ben. This is a little series where I go ahead and talk about Swords and Wizardry, teach you the game, so that way you can take it and use it at your home game table with a head start instead of sitting and having to read the book. I'm going through and visually and audibly helping you learn the game system, because I truly believe that it is one of the greatest game systems that you can play and arguably one of the best for old school gaming. If you missed the other episodes, there's a link in the description to a playlist that will start you right at episode 1 and will take you all the way up to where we are now. Also note that these are podcast-like episodes, so yes, I tend to mumble a little bit. In today's video, I'm actually going to give you some timestamps of when I'm talking about what. So that way, if you're interested in some things over the others, you can just go ahead and go to those specific timestamps. But there are some housekeeping things I want to talk about before we jump into today's video. I am doing a giveaway. Thank you very much for 1,000 subscribers again. I really, really do appreciate it. I did a video announcing the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. It should be flashing up here. Just click the little eye in the top corner and it'll take you right to that video. That will give you all the instructions you need to know to enter the giveaway. Basically, all you have to do is go back to that video, subscribe to the channel, like that video, and comment on that video, and that automatically enters you into the giveaway. That giveaway is ending December 30th, so please do not hesitate on going ahead and jumping in, throw your hat in that one. Also, happy holidays to anyone celebrating a holiday in this magical and amazing holiday season. And this video is going up on Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas to anyone celebrating Christmas. I know a lot of people get together with their gaming groups over the holidays if you're not able to play, every week or every month. So if you are playing with your group, anytime during the holidays, I really hope you enjoy your sessions, have a good one, and possibly run Swords and Wizardry. And the content in today's video is going to help you. So I am ready to begin teaching, so everyone go ahead, take your seats, and we're going to hop over to the computer. All right, welcome everyone. We are now ready to begin our section 6 of Swords and Wizardry 101 with Professor Ben. All right, so we are starting off with the attack roll. The attack roll is the most essential part of any combat. It determines whether you hit the creature you are attacking or not. And combat comes up a lot in Swords and Wizardry, as it comes up in a lot of RPGs. So there's a couple tables that you roll on depending if you are a cleric, druid, and monk, or if you are a fighter, paladin, and ranger, and then subsequently magic user, thief, and assassin. So there is a couple different ones depending on what class you're playing. Now, referees, it is up to you to make sure your players are rolling on the correct attack tables. This can be done in a couple of ways. You can have these tables behind your referee screen or just on your person. So that way, when your players say they're a cleric and they roll a 12 at level 1, what AC they hit. So in that case, it would be 7. You can keep all these tables behind the table with you, so that way, you wait for your player to roll. They sound off to you what they rolled, and then you check to confirm whether they hit or not. Or you can do it in a different way, where you print out for them this table, and then they just have it on them at the time. So that way, when they roll, they can see automatically what AC they hit. So they can roll and say, they roll an 11, then they say out loud, I hit AC 8. And then you can confirm whether that hits or not. It's really up to you on how you want to do it. Just also make sure to keep in mind that if you have any bonuses to hit from magic items or just your strength or anything like that, those are not calculated into this table, so you will have to add those in yourselves. That's pretty much it on these. It's pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot to it. As you can see here, this is the AC at the top here. So then you can just look straight down to see what they need to hit that AC. This is if you are using descending, and then the bracketed one is if you're using an ascending armor class system. But I think the majority of people use descending in Swords and Wizardry. At least I do when I play Swords and Wizardry. If you have an advanced Swords and Wizardry player, they might have this entire thing already memorized. I've played with many people who have it either memorized or they know how to do the math right away. And just playing the game more is the best way to learn it. So like I said, there's different tables for what class you're playing on, so make sure you're rolling on the right table, just so that way everything is in perfect order. The monsters also have an attack table, so you want to look at the monster's hit dice, and then you do the same thing, the same exact thing that the players are doing. So say it's like a one hit dice monster, and they roll a 15. That's going to hit someone with an AC of 3 or 16, depending if you're using descending or ascending armor class. So super simple. When I learned Swords and Wizardry and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, I had the tables. In AD&D, it's conveniently on your DM screen, but in Swords and Wizardry, I printed them out and I put them in a customizable DM screen. Once you learn how to do the math, it becomes a little easy. Basically, like you can see here, just by drawing like certain conclusions, if you roll a 10, you need a 9. So basically, like these numbers are going to equate to 19, and you do that all the way down. As you can see, 19 and 0 are matching. At AC 0, you need a 19. So if you work from AC 0, you can figure it out. That's kind of what Thaco is to hit AC 0. So if we start at 0, that's 19. So then if we need to hit a 1, obviously it's 18 because we just work back. And then as it gets into the negatives, you start adding up. So 20 would be -1 and 21 would be -2. And the same thing goes for the players to hit. It's like a Thaco system, 2 hit armor class 0. That's what Thaco stands for. At least I think. I'm like 90% sure. 99% sure. You can never be too sure when you're recording things because you tend to mess things up when it matters the most. So we're going to move on from that. That's pretty straightforward. So then we're going to go to specific situations. Now, specific situations is a whole slew of things. It's crit fumbles, missile attacks, attacking from behind. We're just going to go one by one, and I'm just going to give a brief rundown of them, just so that way you make sure you have everything in the back of your head when you are playing. Specific situations are good places for homebrew rules as well. So if you don't specifically want to use one of these by the book rules, specific situations are a really good place for you to throw your own pizzazz on the campaign. So when you're attacking from behind, you get a to hit bonus of +2 or +4 by thief or assassin. There are only 2 ways to do this. One is by surprise, and then the other way is if you have an ally that is engaged with combat with a monster and you sneak behind the monster and attack it. So there's only the 2 ways: the sneaking the sneaking and the surprising. Sorry, that makes those 2 up. The thieves and assassins can get behind a target during normal combat if they successfully hide in shadows, even if no one is attacking them from the front. So the only exception is to the sneaking around is thieves and assassins. Attacking from behind is mainly going to be used for your dexterous classes that can sort of maneuver combat easily. As a warrior or a fighter or paladin, you're not going to be doing a lot of attacking from behind because usually you're taking the brunt of the damage. Critical hits and fumbles. This is probably the most homebrewed system in the game. I know my group, we've done it 1,000 different ways. At this point, we're pulling cards from a deck because we just love the random factor of it so much. But basically what critical hit and critical fumble is if you roll a natural 20 on your d20 to hit, you automatically hit or automatically achieve whatever you're doing. If you roll a natural 1, it's an automatic miss, and you have some sort of penalty. Sometimes you accidentally hit your ally next to you. Sometimes your sword goes flying away. There's a bunch of cool things that you can do with that. There's plenty of tables online that are fumble tables. But at the end of the day, it's up to the referee kind of what happens. When you roll a natural 20, you inflict double damage, but it's not recommended for Swords and Wizardry because it can be too powerful. So generally what happens in Swords and Wizardry, if you roll a natural 20, you get to add 1 to your damage at the end there. Just because monsters generally have lower hit points in Swords and Wizardry. So, if you get a really good crit off, you can end up one-shotting a monster that's supposed to be like a boss, which obviously, will kind of kill the encounter a little bit. And while in certain situations it'll make sense, the subjectivity of critical hits and fumbles is all up to just that fact, subjectivity. So do what you enjoy in your game. So attacking invisible opponents is our next bullet here. An attack against an invisible opponent has a -4 penalty. Powerful monsters with 11 or more hit dice will be able to see invisible creatures normally. So generally, if the creature is an 11 hit dice creature, which is a pretty strong creature, it's pretty up there, they most likely will be able to see like a PC, a player character who's invisible. But if they are invisible and there's no sense of them, you have a -4 penalty to hit, obviously, because you're just kind of like, randomly swinging around. Melee, we've already talked about this. Missile, we've already talked about it as well. It's just, attacking with a sword or a dagger, and then, attacking with a sling or a crossbow or a bow. They're pretty easy. Movement within melee. For purposes of Swords and Wizardry, a defender effectively blocks an area about 5 feet across, and enemies cannot simply move through this area without killing the defender. Alternatively, the referee might allow such movement, but grant a free attack to the defender in the area. The referee's common sense ultimately controls the situation. So basically what this means is if you are engaged with a monster and that monster wants to run past you to like your wizard in the back or something, because your wizard's, going to cast fireball, that monster can't just move through you. However, if the referee does allow the monster to move around you, you should give that player character the opportunity to attack them as the monster is running away from them. That makes sense. So like if you're engaged, say I'm engaged with a bandit and he wants to run past me. He's busy running past me to block any attack from me. I should have an opportunity to, just get a good slash at him as he's running past me. I like the opportunity attack rule if you are going to, allow creatures to move out of your space. However, in the original game, there's no rule on this. You can just run away from someone. So it's up to you. That is another thing that is pretty, whatever goes at your table goes at your table. Negotiating diplomacy. Some combats can be averted by just basically talking your way out of things. A good example of this was Han Solo. He talked himself out of a lot of situations. Who shot first? That is a different conversation, maybe for a different day. But sometimes you can strike up a bargain, or convince a monster that there's a much larger threat coming from behind you that they need to prepare for, or something like that. To do this, you can do like maybe some persuasive rolls. You can have, you can roll a d20 and then the player can roll a d20, and whoever gets the higher one, that's what the outcome is. That's the person who wins the outcome. I always recommend, if you're going to do this in any situation, if your player is creative with it, give them a little bit of a bonus, because role-playing should be rewarded and, encouraged, basically, or creativity at that. Retreating. It's up to the referee if you want to do any retreats. This is sort of what I was talking about earlier, that if you retreat from an area, you can make an attack or a free attack roll. The hero or the monster can, whoever's trying to move 10 feet away from you. In that case, you get a +2 to hit that monster. Or, they get a +2 to hit you when you are running away from them. Spacing. Spacing is just making sure you're not overlapping a bunch of people within the same space. Basically, I just say use your common sense. If you're in a 5-foot corridor, you're not going to be able to jam 2 people fighting, swinging broadswords or firing arrows. It's going to be way too tight. So just keep that in mind, the spacing of everything. Make sure you also, figure out how big your monsters are, so that, you can fit them in the right rooms. I've seen some written content where, the monster or the rooms are too small for the monsters. So just make sure to keep that in mind, referees. That's a big thing that I can recommend to you, is just always keep spacing in mind. Just use your common sense, whatever you think goes there. That's just sort of that's my 2 cents on it. Spells start at the beginning of combat and cannot be cast if you're in melee combat with someone. Also, if you get hit while trying to cast a spell, the spell is lost. It's automatically donezo. You don't get to use it, which will come into the combat sequence methods, as we talked about earlier. The subdual. So subduing damage that isn't, going to kill someone. Generally, only humanoids can be subdued. So say they're at like 1 hit point and you just want to knock that humanoid out as opposed to killing them. You can try to do so. Those hit points are recovered 1 point per hour. And basically how I run this in my games is I just have the character declare that they are saying, I'm attacking with my broadsword, but I'm going to try to hit him over the head and knock him out. I'm not trying to kill him. And then if he hits and does his damage that knocks him out, that creature is knocked out as opposed to killed. Again, generally the humanoids can be knocked out. Sometimes, like dragons or other creatures can be subject to this, but most monsters will just die, or they won't even really give you information if they're knocked out anyway, and then you try to harass them. So yeah, just that's another one that's subjective. Terrain features. Sometimes you have really bad terrain, so you can hide easier in these terrains. Maybe you get a bonus for fighting from the high ground. Again, to use it's the second Star Wars reference in this episode. Obi-Wan Kenobi knew the importance of the high ground, and Anakin did not, as we found out. Maybe you get a bonus from that. Maybe you get a bonus from shooting arrow from concealment because they don't know where the attack's coming from. Anything like that, you can give plus or minuses. If your monster is like hiding behind a tree while getting attacked, they should get a higher AC because they're harder to hit. Just stuff like that. So just keep in mind the terrain you're playing in. Sometimes your players will get pluses or minuses depending on what's going on there. Unarmed combat. This will mainly happen sometime. This will happen sometimes in like cities is where I see it, or if you get like disarmed in a combat. Often in cities, depending what city you're playing in or your rules on it, sometimes your characters won't even be able to bring in weapons to a city, or they have to be sheathed at all times, so they won't be like accessible to use. So unarmed combat will sometimes break out. Grappling is a big part of unarmed combat. Grappling an opponent is resolved as follows. The attackers or attacker make individual to hit rolls. The grapple is resolved among those to hit, and each combatant rolls 1d6 per hit die. If the sum of the die of all attackers is higher than the defender's total, the hapless defender is completely pinned and can be killed next round unless help arrives or the victim manages to break loose before the knife falls. So that example isn't specifically used in like I was talking about, but as we go down further in the paragraph, you talk about fist fights. Fists only do 1 point of damage when you go fisticuff with someone, and there's a 50% chance that damage is subdual damage. So strength bonuses, are added into that as well. Like I said, that's mainly just like tavern brawls. But it's more efficient to go like a WWE on them and hit a chair over their head or something. So next topic of conversation is turning the undead. Turning the undead is a part of Dungeons and Dragons, which I believe is very important for clerics to understand and remember, because undead are pretty mean suckers. Undead monsters in any role-playing game are pretty tough. So if you can have a cleric in your party who can, turn them away, make them flee from you, that's what turning means. It basically make them flee, or even sometimes destroying them. Having this ability is enormous, especially if you're, doing a lot of undead campaigns. Chaotic clerics cannot turn the undead. This is only for law. As an optional rule, chaotic clerics might have some chaos-based powers corresponding to the lawful power to turn the undead. Non-player clerics of chaos may have whatever additional referee rules as well. Clerics are generally law-based. That kind of talks about it in here. There are some neutral gods maybe that would be able to provide the cleric with that special bonus, but we talked about that earlier when we created our classes, that clerics should be lawful, because that's where they get their powers from. So as we kind of go down here, we can see that there's a table that you need to roll on to determine whether you turn them or not. It's based on your clerical level and the challenge level of the undead. So this is big for your referee to study this and learn this. To make someone flee, you roll 2d10 and then consult the table down below. So we roll our 2d10. Sorry, I'm stuttering a little bit. If it is that number or higher, then you successfully turn them. If there's a dash, it's just you're just out of luck. There's nothing you can do. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. If you run into a vampire at level 1 or a lich, you're probably pretty dead already before you can even turn. If the number on the dice is equal or greater to the number shown on the table, 2d6 creatures of that targeted type are turned and will depart, not returning for 3d6 rounds. So just make sure, referees, you're rolling this to see how many creatures are targeted, first of all, and then how long they won't return for. If the table indicates T, 2d6 of those undead creatures are automatically turned. You don't even have to roll for it. And if there's a D on the table, that means they are automatically destroyed and will crumble into dust. So as you see, as you level up in cleric levels, it becomes easier to turn lower level monsters, and you also unlock the ability to turn higher level monsters. So if you run into a group of skeletons at level 5, you automatically turn them. You don't even have to roll for it. But if you run into maybe a different group of skeletons next level, at level 6, you destroy them automatically because you see the D there. Referees, just make sure you have one of these ready for you because they're it's an essential part of the game, and it's going to happen a lot. Shadows might not be turned. Creatures in your campaign, sometimes shadows just can't be turned. They might be subject to turning, just as demons, also not undead, can be turned. So it's just subject to referee approval. And vampires and more powerful undeads cannot be turned at all. So subject to referee discretion. Sometimes, if you have a really high level cleric, maybe you can give them a really low odds to turn them, but I kind of agree with making them not turnable because they are very, very intelligent beings, especially the lich, as we all know. Next up is damage, death, and healing. Damage, death, and healing is another very large part of Swords and Wizardry and RPGs in general. When a creature or character is hit, the amount of damage is deducted from their hit points, basically. So, you take damage depending if you get hit or not. When you reach 0, you are unconscious. If your hit points are brought down to -1 or lower, you die. So, if you get reduced to -1, you're going to die outright. A good potential house rule is attributed to Gary Gygax's gaming table, a rumor that might not be true. It allows a character to remain alive, although bleeding to death, at a rate of 1 hit point per second if no assistance is rendered, until the character reaches negative hit points equals to the character's level. In other words, a 5th level character actually dies upon reaching -5 hit points instead of the -1. Again, that's a house rule for you. I've always used that in my games. We go to the negative version of whatever damage is equal to your character level. I think it's just kind of fun. Addition for healing. In addition to the various magical means of restoring hit points, a character recovers naturally 1 hit point per day of uninterrupted rest. 4 weeks of rest will return a character to full hit points regardless of how many hit points have been lost. So if your character basically takes a month off of adventuring, you're fully rested up and ready to go for your next adventure. I know some parties who grant more hit points for resting, but I like keeping it challenging at a low amount, like 1. Morale. So this is talking about some monsters or creatures are fearless and will fight to the death. Some of them, though, will sort of have the survival instincts and will flee if they, see themselves having a better situation, later down the path to make amends for their friends' deaths or their near death. This goes for PCs as well. Not every fight needs to be brought to the death.
My group has had to learn this multiple times. So basically just scale this with the intelligence of the monster. So if you're playing a non-intelligent monster, maybe just have them fight to the death. But if you're playing a more intelligent monster, maybe have them flee, because that will certainly open more opportunities down the road for basically just for maybe some new encounters down the road. If you are using ascending armor class, this is the secret formula to using that. All you're going to do is add your pluses based on your level, and then add that to your roll, and then compare that to the AC of the monster. This will help you just calculate a lot easier. It's sort of just like a quick fix guide if you're using Ascending Armor class, but I know a lot of people don't use Ascending Armor class. So that's there for you. Just a nice little quick method if you're using it. Well, today's session has gone and passed pretty fast. We're actually going to end it there. The gameplay example will be briefly talked about in next episode, and then we will start into high-level adventuring, which is always a very, very fun part of role-playing games. I know my group and I really, really do enjoy getting to those high levels. So, again, go check out the giveaway on last week's video if you have not already. Just a quick little reminder that ends on December 30th, 2019. And that is for getting to 1,000 subscribers. Again, thank you guys so much for 1,000 subs. We have actually even surpassed that by 100 now at the recording of this video. So let's keep the snowball rolling. Recommend this video or the episode 1 of this video series to a friend that is interested in role-playing games, because maybe it'll help them get involved in them. Of course, I'm open to any questions in the comment section down below. Please leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it at any time. It genuinely does help me grow the channel. Little secret about YouTube: the more likes and comments on the video, the more it gets into the algorithm. So that'll help us grow and grow our community even more, which we hope to do, because this is a great community and I want to involve as many people in it as possible. Subscribe if you haven't already, because you have to be for the giveaway. So really no choice there. All right, I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, happy holidays to anyone celebrating the holidays. That's really all for me. I'm going to continue to drink my Red Bull and record the next videos for the for the rest of the year. So that way you guys have content going into the end of the year as well. Well, that's all for me. Keep those rolls and spirits high. We'll see you next time.